Mr. Kroll.
Thank you, President Arnold. We have Safety Service Committee to report. We have no items on the agenda tonight. Expect some in the future, but one of the things I wanted to talk about was that we had a committee meeting on January the 27th to discuss 3 items. One was a proposal to include a minimum fine level to the junk car ordinance. The committee discussed how this minimum $500 fee would only come into play when the 3rd instance of junk cars being left on a property within a single year happened. Currently, the ordinance does not include a minimum, so this measure would add some more teeth to the enforcement of this nuisance issue. The next item that we discussed was findings on a question posed to Council as to when the Redflex cameras would be removed from the city. Since November ballot issue to remove them passed, I read an email from the mayor that stated that the company would be removing the cameras in the coming weeks. Currently, they have been working on the removal of the cameras in Heath, Ohio, and that, coupled with some bad weather, is an understandable that there's been some delays, but the cameras should be coming down sometime in the near future. Final issue that the committee addressed were the results, were requests from the fire department for a new radio relay, which would cost $9,000, and a new generator for truck number 1, which would cost $13,200. Assistant Chief Assistant Chief Gallagher spoke to the importance of both of these items, and he explained what each item was used for and rated their importance. It was during this discussion that other firefighters in attendance brought up the need for face masks for each firefighter, which would cost $1,000 each, for a total of $20,000 total to fit their need. They explained that the unsanitary practice of sharing masks and that new face masks would help, and Assistant Chief Gallagher agreed that new face masks would be helpful and even said they may be more important than the generator. Council that was in attendance was all supportive of these needs for quality equipment for the fire department, but worried about the funding for these items, which combined would be $42,200. After speaking with the city auditor, we need to maybe look at breaking these items apart and trying to purchase them over time. Currently, the city has only $84,000 in unappropriated safety levy capital monies for the year, and of course that is an estimate of monies that should be coming in. So we'll be speaking with members of the committee to try to get a plan to get at least some of these items on the next council agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Are there any other committee reports this evening? If not, we'll move on to reports of officials. Mayor Salzer.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of council. Just touching briefly on a couple of the items on this evening's agenda, items 8 and 9, which have been spoken to by the committee chairs. I would join with them in asking council's favorable consideration of passage of those items this evening, especially when you consider the emergency needs for sewer line repairs that come up, especially during the cold weather months when we experience the freeze and thaws, which moves the ground and breaks the line. So I would ask council's favorable consideration this evening. I also want to take this opportunity with the recent snowstorm that we experienced here in the community over the past weekend. I want to thank the service department for the tremendous job that they did on cleaning our streets and keeping them clean. Today they were all at work, but tonight hopefully getting enough rest for the next storm coming in, which will be tomorrow and Wednesday as I understand it. So they will once again be back out into community, equipment prevailing, I hope, to work with the snow removal that we anticipate will be here. There have been several announcements by the Parks and Recreation Department that the Chillicothe Day at the Cincinnati Reds is on Saturday, April the 24th at 1 o'clock. The tickets are only $17 a piece, which is one-half the normal ticket price. Those tickets can be purchased at the Parks and Recreation Department in Yokanji Park. In speaking with the transit director today, the transit facility has been moving along quite well because most of the work now has been performed on the inside. They're hopeful that they can get into the new facility either this May or June. Once we make that determination, we will of course let council and the public know, and we'll have a little ceremony for the opening of the new facility. And council members, all department head annual reports are now available. You may stop by the mayor's office at your convenience to pick those up. I would have brought those over, but I didn't have a dolly with me this evening. And finally, on Nina Gardens, the plans have been finalized, have been submitted to the Ohio EPA. Ohio EPA has issued its approval of those plans. Now, where are we as far as funding for that? My discussions with the Ohio EPA over the past several months in trying to secure federal stimulus monies for this project, we are in a position where we are on the list, that they anticipate additional federal funding that may become available during the year 2010, and that the city would then be in good stead, or good standing to try and achieve, if not some, if not all of the fundings for this particular project. So I know that the residents of Nina Gardens have been patient for a long time. They want to know when are the sewer lines going to be installed. But if we can receive federal grant monies in order to accomplish this project, then we won't be looking at any type of assessments against the property owners for the installation of those services. So with their patience and with hopefully the federal government's assistance in the very near future, this is a project that we may see come to fruition hopefully this year, and at the savings of a lot of dollars to the residents of Nina Gardens. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Hill? Or, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of council, with respect to a couple of items on the agenda tonight, item number 7, Mr. Sibrel has already addressed that. I did, however, express to Ms. Strong, the victim advocate here at the municipal court, that I too would ask council to consider waiving the 3-reading rule and passing that, so that they can get the money returned back to the state or the federal government, whichever it may be, depending on the monies, and that she can make sure that she doesn't see a cease in funding for her position. Her victim advocate role is very critical for a prosecution of all victim-related crimes here in municipal court. With respect to item number 9, this again, and Mrs. Malone addressed this one as well, these are monies that were obtained as a result of a structure fire. We do have an ordinance that reflects the state code, which does allow us to receive a portion of insurance monies that are received in the event of a fire. It allows the city to hold those monies until the structure is removed or otherwise made safe, and it's my understanding that that has taken place according to Mr. Kite. And so I would ask that you also waive the 3-read rule so that those monies can be returned to the homeowner who is entitled to receive the amount that Mrs. Malone mentioned earlier. The last thing I would ask, and I would remind council members, when you do make a legislation request to my office, please provide supporting documentation. Just the legislation request form, in most instances, does not give me enough information to adequately prepare an ordinance to get before council. So if I don't have the paperwork, then that delays the process of getting that onto your agenda and moving forward. Part of that process also includes speaking with the city auditor's office to obtain the appropriate account numbers and actual accounts, where money will be appropriated from and what account it will be appropriated to. That does help expedite the process in the long run. If you're able to get those account numbers, provide them to us, we then have to go back to the auditor's office for their agreement and as far as those numbers, but it does help to speed it up at that point. So that, we would again ask you to make sure that you're sending that information to us so that I can make sure the ordinance is prepared properly and as quickly as we can.